on hope. As Pope hopefully put it, hope springs eternal in the human breast. Man never is, but will be blessed, or words to that effect, the second part being rather more cynical. And I hope he's right. I hope that we could go on like this forever. I hope that hope will always spring eternal in the human breast, because without it, life is very, very bleak. Accounts of terrible situations in concentration camps and elsewhere, wars, famines, nearly always the thing that keeps people going is some flicker, some very small gesture or sight which gives them hope that maybe this will end. I personally have been, I think, a hopeful person. I used to go around, I'm told, as a child with a gloomy expression and hardly ever smiled at school and so on for my first years, and even the teachers tried to bribe me to smile. So I must have been a bit anxious and gloomy in some ways, but certainly my recollection of myself is that I've always been hopeful that things would improve, that all sorts of interesting things lay ahead, and I've been incredibly fortunate not to have suffered from depression. But when I look around me, particularly now, I suppose at the end of COVID, I find so many people apparently losing hope, particularly we hear young people. They were used to a world where things were promised and which would get better, and yet they look at world tragedies like the destruction of the oceans and the mountains and the forests and future ecological catastrophe. They look at the continuation of wars and of famines. They look at their own job prospects and the relentless march of artificial intelligence replacing even white collar and other jobs. And they wonder and ask us older people, what hope is there? Do we give up? And the rates of anxiety-related food and depression conditions, we're told, are much higher. Of course, the strains and stresses of lockdown and COVID added to all this, but I think there are other existential reasons. It's probable that the way in which people live, the constant bombardment in social media and news cycles with endless accounts of grim affairs, doesn't encourage hope. I turn on Al Jazeera television every day, and I think only 1 in 10, 20 stories are hopeful stories. The rest are disasters here, fought and corrupt elections there, plunging economies there, world recessions, etc. It just goes on and grinds into you. Some people just turn it off, but then you can't turn it off because it's there lurking in the back of your smartphone all the time. And so the general atmosphere, because obviously you attract people through dire predictions and not through hopeful ones. But when people say to me, am I hopeful? I say, well, in a limited way, yes. I think human beings can solve many of the contemporary problems if they really want to. The solutions are already mostly known. We know that we have enough food if we distribute it properly. We know that if we were sensible with our diets, we could cut out much greenhouse gases and other things like that, and that there are new sources of energy which will totally transform the world. So I believe that we will solve these problems, the one that would finish it all off, of course, is a nuclear war, which is totally unpredictable. But even that, I try and console myself by saying, well, I'll never know it happens, because it'll be over so soon that I'll be gone. So it'll just be like my own personal death or extinction, but other people will go at the same time. So when I speak to young people and others, I think of all the positive sides of things. I'm not just a wishful thinker, because I've written a book on how to survive, in which I put forward 8 solutions to 8 of the most important problems, and in each of them I've summarized how we've got into the mess we are, and then given what is an obvious and fairly easy solution. So if we are hopeful, we can be active. That is the final thing to say about hope, really, that if you lose hope, then you just succumb. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You sink into gloom and inaction and despair. If you are hopeful, then you strive, as I've tried to strive through my life, to attain that hope. So hope is a beacon in the future, something we work towards, and without that beacon there, that end of the rainbow, which we'll never attain, of course, we will never attain it. So hope on, hope always.